The Forsaken are the last bastion of humanity, of civilization as the world knows it, living in the confines of the walled city of New Ashkelon, under the theocratic rule of the Prevailer Council. These are the sons and daughters, the long-term descendants of the people who were left behind, hence the name Forsaken, when the corporations left this planet. They found a way to survive in the hellish landscape that Samaria is by basically figuring out a religion based on the Creator, a very stern God looking down upon them and getting them to do the right thing for the right reason. Of course, as long as it's all under the Prevailer's rule, everything seems to go the way it should. The Forsaken are split up into several different sub-factions, starting with, of course, the actual unaligned that can work with any of the sub-factions. Those include your generic troops that can work in just tactically with just about any way that you can figure out which sub-faction is good for you. The unaligned can fit in there and bring their own kind of flavor to that. The sub-factions themselves, the Forsaken army has got the most because they're one of the oldest forces in our game. They've been around the longest and they've got the most gameplay under their belt. At the top of this, we've got the Prevailer Council. It's a privatized military force that answers directly only to the council itself, led by the councilwoman Lilith and all of her dutiful minions, we'll say. They keep everyone else in line. They keep the masses moving in the right direction for the good of New Ashkelon and, of course, the good of the Prevailer Council itself. The rest of the sub-factions are actually split up into the various saints. You've got the forces of Saint Mark, who are a little shady, actually. They've got a lot of infiltrate. They get out there and have some fancy weaponry, things that other people might not have access to. St. John is almost the opposite, where he is a stalwart defender of the faith, a true paladin, and his forces are just hard nuts to crack. They forego technology in a way to bring heavy hammers and just the power of their faith to the forefront. The forces of St. Mary. St. Mary is also kind of, she's sort of almost a martyr. She puts a lot of herself and a lot of her troops out there. There's a lot of risk versus reward within her faction. The forces of St. Luke, a saint who really doesn't have all the blessings of the Prevailer Council because of some things that happened to him in his backstory. His forces are elite soldiers. Along with him, you don't need that many of his forces on the field to really kind of dominate what they're going to go out and take care of as far as the missions themselves go. The forces of St. Joan. St. Joan is a tragic figure who has been through some very, very terrible things in her life, and she puts all of that into herself and out into the battlefield where she takes it out on her enemies. She is very, very psychological in her warfare and inflicts panic upon her foes, and then all of her soldiers come in and take advantage of that panic. The forces of St. Isaac are the most technologically advanced forces within the Forsaken, having actually powered armored soldiers and legitimate artificial intelligence robots that are driven by remote control almost by some of the other soldiers in the battle. Isaac himself can either run around on foot helping out his machines, or you can actually field him inside of a really cool power suit called an Ajax. Collectively, the Forsaken are the largest faction in Dark Age, but they have a lot of diversity, and if you really sink your teeth into these guys, you can find something that will fit your play style one way or another.